Good morning, listeners, and welcome back to this week's episode of Coaches and Coffee with my two co-hosts, the Wizard and the Professor.
Hey, good morning. It's good to see you up this morning early.
It's a record that he's been up in this early in the morning 4 times in a row.
Well, except for the recruiting trip sometimes.
Yeah, right. Okay.
All right, now that you guys have had your fun this morning, yes, I'm not the morning riser that you two knuckleheads are, but, this is fun, I think. I mean, people seem to be listening. We had record number of downloads last week, so thank you to those people. Even if it's one person downloading it 10 times, we still appreciate you wanting to listen to this in-depth coaching knowledge. So,
Wait.
well,
I get to jump in as always at the first minute. Not drinking coffee this morning. I've already had 9 cups. That was a while ago. But I did have some suggestions from listeners for names or other input. First from one of the more loyal listeners was, you guys sound just as stupid on this as you do in real life. And the other one was, could you maybe change the podcast to the Supreme air quote basketball court, because you guys are a whole bunch of old white guys that all just wish it were back in the old days.
I like the person that thinks, that we sound like idiots, 24/7. That's awesome.
I mean, it's true too, but
yeah, I mean, perfect what you're good at. That's what it should be. All right. So as we said at the end of last week's episode, we were going to talk a little bit about AAU, NIL at the college level. So we'll first start with AAU and, how kids being involved in AAU programs, and not necessarily, the AAU program that just goes from, usually when a regular season ends until June, but those that play AAU and don't play other sports, at the high school level. So AAU, I used to coach. I believe, Professor, you're going to chime in and say that you also used to coach. The challenges today with the dwindling numbers and kids playing AAU, taking them away from the high school sports team, whether it's in the spring or the fall, because AAU used to just seem like it was in our area, just used to be in the springtime, but now it's expanded and more year round. So, thoughts?
Well, the one thing about AAU that I wanted to say and inform coaches who are thinking about doing it, there has to be a balance, and you kind of hit it a little bit towards players who are playing AAU and AAU only. In the smaller schools, a lot of those kids are needed as bodies for the springtime sports, be it softball, baseball, or what have you. And, they're taking these kids away and they're playing AAU, and they're not even playing AAU with their community. They're playing AAU for other communities, competing with other players that they're going to be competing against come their season in the fall and winter. We followed the rule where we were not allowed in any season or what have you. Coaches were not allowed to coach AAU. So I never coached during the spring for AAU. I always did summer league, and we would travel around and play in tournaments against AAU teams, particularly in Maine, because it's very popular over there at that time. So, there needs to be a balance, and you need to think about players as well, need to think about, am I going to go and just play AAU and, basically to hell with my teammates who need me to play softball or any other sport. And then when it comes time for my season, most likely basketball to start, and some of the players who really don't like basketball are kind of on the hinge of whether they want to play or not. And they might just go back and say, well, you screwed me over in the spring during my sport. I don't really give a shit about you in your sport. So, there has to be a balance. And that's just my feeling on it.
Yeah, Wizard, can't be more than right. I coached AAU for a long time, and I was young and thought 100% doing the right thing. We got a bunch of different kids together. We're traveling everywhere, having a blast. We're gone weekend after weekend after weekend in the spring. I don't give a shit about softball. Couldn't have cared less about the coach. And it was fun, and we're teaching fundamentals, and we're just having a really good time. And then we roll around into the summer. We're playing summer ball. Into the fall, we're doing preseason workouts. And then in the regular season, I'm pissed off when the softball coach wants to have his pitchers throwing. And I kind of went, wow. As I got older, I guess I learned that I was a hypocrite. And we are at a small school, and these kids need to be able to play all the sports and hang out with their teammates and do everything that's part of the school. And basketball, while to the three of us is really important, it's not the most important thing. I say that, and all three of us believe that when we're in season, it's the most important thing. And we've talked about how kids can only get better by doing this not in season. But I subscribe now to the philosophy of if they want to play AAU, great, but don't take them away from team sports. And you can get just as much done in a day or two a week of working out, and then working 5 or 6 minutes on dribbling and a couple of shots a week out of season, and still be more prepared than you are playing up and down the court AAU NBA style.
Yeah, and I think AAU, it really depends on the program. And just to clarify for our listeners, I never broke the rules. I didn't teach girls AAU. I did a boys team, which was, as Professor said, it was a lot of fun. Traveled around. Definitely got my experience of coaching boys and versus girls, and the boys know everything. So not even sure I was a coach, probably more like an adult supervisor at times. But depends on the program and who's running it. A lot of times AAU programs, in the larger they are, the more money driven they are. And these kids and parents are paying an exorbitant amount of money to travel all over the place and play basketball against great competition. And I don't want to take that away. However, if it's impacting a school sport, that was the number one reason why I got out of coaching boys AAU, is the kids stopped playing baseball in the spring. And I, now working at the school, but believing in kids being 2 and 3 sport athletes and not just one, it was difficult for me to continue with that. And so I got out of it, and I don't think the baseball numbers necessarily went up any, but at least I didn't have, to Professor's point, I didn't have that guilt or hypocrisy that I was taking away from the school sports team that I wouldn't want to happen during our season. So kids think sometimes I'm mean because I tell them they can't ski in the basketball season, and they can't do certain things during winter carnival events and stuff like that. But we have hopefully different goals and different focuses. And the last thing I'll say to piggyback on what the Wizards said was, we always have told kids, like, we get it, not basketball is not everyone's favorite sport, but it is someone's favorite sport in here. And if you expect them to work hard during your favorite sports season, then they have every right to expect you to work hard during their favorite sports season. And I don't think kids sometimes see it that way. and they work as hard as they can, and some, probably take some days off here or there. But overall, I think it's the right philosophy to have. So anything else on AAU?
Well, also too, I just wanted to add, if you use AAU as a recruiting element, you're a son of a bitch for doing that too. I'm not saying that you guys are, but it has happened.
You've called us that before, but amen to that comment.
And I've got another comment too on AAU, which is going to lead us into the NIL. There's a huge difference between what we're talking about at the AAU level, like what we've coached, and then the next level of AAU. I remember coaching in the day, and we were pretty good, could win the states and stuff like that. And then we go down and we play the Philadelphia Bells, and we lose 96-8. 96-8, the worst loss I've ever had in a basketball game.
I hope so.
But 7 of those kids on that team were going to a D1 college program.
Right.
And that level of AAU, that's a whole different deal. We're going to talk about the NIL next. But if your kid is that good, have them play AAU for an elite team. Have them play all year long and have them get a $60,000 scholarship. Amen to that.
Right. Absolutely.
But don't run a small AAU program around here and try to pick off those kids that aren't quite that level, but they're good enough to make your program really good. I've been accused of trying to steal a kid to play, a regular season for me after playing AAU for me. And I remember saying to the parents, you can't send your kid to my school to play D4 basketball. Keep them in their hometown and, let them be happy there.
Ian, kudos to you for having that conversation, because I think there's definitely history, not just in New Hampshire, but everywhere, AAU of high school coaches getting in trouble for recruiting, coaching AAU of a bunch of all-star kids, and then miraculously one or two of those all-star kids that don't live in their town that they coach in all of a sudden start playing for that coach the next winter. And it's unfair. It's unfair to do that. That's really not what AAU is for. One of the toughest things that I find when we have kids that just play AAU in the spring and then we go into the summer, the one thing that AAU doesn't really put a lot of focus on at the level that these kids play at in the tournaments they go to. The officiating is extremely different. Generally, you have, two officials that are doing like 14 games in a row. They just want to collect their money, so to speak, but they also don't want to make the games any longer. So fouls in AAU aren't necessarily called the same way as they are at the high school level. And so kids have to learn to adapt from that. And one of the things that I thought our boys, when I did it, we would go to a tournament in Massachusetts, one of the tournaments in the spring, and similar to your story, I don't think we got beat 96-8, but I think it was like 80 something to 30 something.
Well, you're a better coach than I am.
No, I wouldn't say that, but I remember getting to the facility and walking in, and one of the players came out and said something to the effect of, "Coach, these guys are dunking," and I'm like, "Okay, like the game can be played above the rim. It's okay," and for kids to see that these kids are the same age as them, and they're from a neighboring state below us, and they have that much more talent. I mean, we didn't go to Philadelphia, but sometimes people don't realize, we're just a small pond up here, and there's a much larger ocean out there with bigger fish that have more skills than us, and that's okay. We have to keep things in perspective that we coach Division IV basketball and not at the elite level. Our kids, Wizard had said a while back on a podcast, like, they're not going pro. So if that's what they think they want to do, that's great. You can have goals, and I'm not here to shatter goals, but I'm also not here to support unrealistic expectations. So.
Hey, and I think the hardest thing for us in AAU nowadays too is that we're going to talk again about NIL, but the game is transitioning, and so us on the Supreme Court here, we like the style that we used to coach, and AAU has become pretty much a track meet with a lot of super athletes, but it's really emulating the professional basketball, which pours down to the college, which pours down to high school. And it's not the style I like. We used to have these kids go off and play AAU, and then we'd spend the first 3 weeks of practice trying to teach them how to play defense again. So, I mean, I know we all don't feel great about AAU, but I think as I've gotten older, I understand the benefits, but I don't think that a lot of parents are understanding the benefits of spending $2,500 to $5,000 a season to send their kids to the Wizards' point to not become professional basketball players.
Yeah. Defense. That's
We're talking defense.
We teach defense. I thought it was just like how many points you could score. Jeez. All right. So that's a great segue into NIL, which obviously has transformed the college landscape. There's a ton of athletes, in the past that were probably heavily recruited. The Reggie Bush story comes to mind. About, getting paid behind the scenes and, other athletes, their parents miraculously get this, $500,000 house, and this kid goes to the school that anonymous donor, put forth the money. So I think I mentioned it a little bit, last week is, the challenges when we were talking about the greatest college sports team, Cinderella sports team, to not quite win it all. And I think basketball and football are the heaviest drivers of NIL. Caitlin Clark helped put on the map, women's basketball again, although I still prefer watching that over some of the men's college game. But the likelihood of a Cinderella, so to speak, a small market team, unless players are going with the understanding that, hey, I'm going here to be a better basketball player, I'm going here to get my degree, and move on, NIL is truly impacting where these kids, where in college they can legally recruit. But the money is the biggest factor that I see today at pulling kids into these blue blood type programs because they got all these donors and they got much more money to spend.
Absolutely. What a frustrating week, I would say. You have that Sorsby decision coming out of the courts, and people are up in arms because he's being allowed to come back to school, and then you have the billionaire donor from Texas Tech who's even being interviewed in regards to the court decision and the kid playing. What does it turn? What does it come to? It's turned college sports to me as something that's illegitimate, and pretty soon we're going to start hearing about mafia connections, and it makes me think of the movie Casino. I can't help but think that college sports are heading into a bad place because they opened Pandora's box. And I'm not saying that kids did not deserve to get paid, because schools are making billions of dollars off from them and thinking nothing of it and not giving them kids a thing except for a scholarship and raking in the cash. But, when they started paying them, and then there basically were just no rules, it was like the wild, wild west. And now in the NFL, when players were drafted, used to be that they would bring them in, all the rookies, and they would have to attend these classes to learn about the fact that now you're going to be getting a lot of money and you need to learn how to manage it. We're just taking these 18-year-old kids getting out of high school and making them millionaires. I mean, we were 18 at one time, a long time ago, and I know I wouldn't have had much discipline for sure, but it just there's a bad thing coming down with college sports right now.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. Sorry, Professor, to
Go
cut
ahead.
you off. It was probably a long time ago, but we weren't millionaires, and I'm not sure any of us still are. So,
You know, the first podcast that we did, or you started it off, or I can't remember where it was, but anything but political. And now we're on Supreme Court decisions. We're calling ourselves the Supreme Basketball Court. And I was thinking about like the separation of church and state, and basketball in the college level used to be that. You had the holy grail of basketball and the university. And now we've added the state to it, where there's money being filtered into these players. And I get it. Like, now I'm going to be a socialist. You know, they talk about all this money that's being spread out to the athletes who deserve it, and these programs making billions of dollars. And it's really, like you said, Mags, just the basketball and football programs that are raking all of this money in. But how about, ready for my socialist side of this, how about, because we talk about it with the pro level too, the amount of money that these guys are making, $42 million to play basketball, owners making billions of dollars. How about we cut the advertising costs on Nike shoes, we cut the ticket prices back, and we let all of us poor fans be able to go to a baseball game for $6 like I used to when I was in college? How about we spread the money down away from all of these people, let college be college, let pro make a little bit of money. Do you really need $42 million to play? And, let us enjoy it. It costs us, what's it cost now to go to see the Red Sox play? I mean, right now they're so bad that we could probably go for $4 again, but $6. But how about we just distribute this a little bit better so that these college kids can play and earn a little tiny bit? And then my last point on all of this is, we have this tendency in this country that when something isn't quite right and there's this illegal thing going on, we just make it legal. So I guess what I'm hoping is that at some point they're just going to make heroin legal too.
I mean, that's a jump from coffee in the mornings to jump to heroin.
Well, it might help you in the morning.
Stay asleep.
At least get here on time.
Listen, I was 1 minute late this morning. I had other things I had to take care of.
Wait a second. You were 1 minute late this morning. And as we talked 2 podcasts ago, what is on time?
15 minutes early.
Is on time.
Yeah. Yes.
That would be 16, as we call them today, ladders, not suicide. 16 ladders for you.
Oh, well, you know what? I'll start them now. I should have them done by next podcast.
I was going to say, you'll be out of breath, gassed on our next podcast.
Yeah, I'll do them. I'll get up at 2 next weekend, and I'll start it then.
I wouldn't want to see that sweat towel.
Wow. You guys don't think I could do it. I get it. That's fine. You know?
I didn't say you couldn't do it. I just said there'd be a lot of sweat.
Oh, well, that is the definite smartest thing we've said today, is that I would sweat a lot running 16
Especially yesterday.
ladders. Oh, yesterday was awesome. Hopefully you worked outside yesterday, Professor.
I was outside. It was nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure what was nice about it, but one more thing on the NIL, and I know it's started to be talked about amongst NCAA or different conferences, is trying to set a salary cap, so to speak, so that these one programs can't get $20 million and another program gets $1 million in NIL. Because it is skewed towards the men's sport more so than any other. And football and basketball, do bring those schools the most amount of money, but that shouldn't deter or take away from those kids that are great softball players or great baseball players, that represent their schools with the same amount of pride, the same amount of passion, but just a sport that isn't as heavily watched and heavily advertised as those other 2 sports that we were mentioning. So it hopefully doesn't continue to trickle down to the high school level, could you imagine, us having a slush fund to
I
pay
think you
our
guys have
athletes?
one, don't you?
I was going to say, isn't the big schools like the D2 schools like you coach at, don't you guys get like a slush fund?
I
You
don't
have a
even.
helicopter.
If I had a helicopter, you guys wouldn't, and we wouldn't be on this podcast right now because I probably wouldn't be alive trying to figure out how to fly one of those things. No, I don't even slush fund. Like, we're just like any other D4 school. Just because you guys think that we're this monstrosity, I'm pretty sure we're in between the two of your schools that we coached at in the sense of enrollment numbers now. So we're not the big dog on the porch anymore.
Okay.
Oh, suffering Christ.
Yeah,
Listen, Jim.
I do have one last comment on the NIL, which is the same one I had on the AAU, and that is there is this group of players that are going to play at the pro level, and I don't know that it's ever going to work, but especially at the big sports like men's basketball and men's football, maybe the WNBA at some point will come into play on this, and maybe they already have. Is it possible to separate the college from the program and have it be just essentially a minor league program so that these players who are at that elite level get paid to play and they all risk injury? You were talking about not letting kids ski. There has to be some way to make it fair for these elite athletes to not have to give up the possibility of a $50 million contract because they get injured in college.
Yeah, that definitely plays into the fact or the factoring in why college kids, at least at the basketball level, I know they can't do it in football, but they're the one and done era, so that they can go get paid. And kudos to them. That's the capitalist society that we live in, and the money's there. Take it. Hopefully, as the Wizard was saying, that they got somebody smart behind them that's teaching them how to manage money that is unrealistic in our lives. But to be 18, 19 years old and sign your first, even if it's like the minimum contracts that you can sign, and let's say you're making $5 million a year. $5 million a year is a good chunk of change to play a sport that, you love, and that we pay a lot of money to try to go watch when we can afford it. I'm not as wealthy as the two of you, so
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah. Yeah.
don't we all? I mean, $6, I don't even remember. I do remember my college roommate and we went to a couple of Sox games, but I think it was more like $15. So, not quite $6 in the professor era, but $15. Now I don't even know if you can buy a hot dog for $15. So
Hey, before we move on to that next one, did you guys ever go to the Montreal Expo games when they existed on the dollar night, Tuesday dollar night, and the hot dogs were $1 a piece too? It was amazing. Go up and watch a really good baseball game for $1 and then come home sick because you ate 6 $1 hot dogs. What a day.
all less than $10 for a good night out.
Yeah. Didn't even have to drink anything and I could get sick coming home. It was wonderful.
I did go to Olympic Stadium a number of times. A friend of mine that I worked with was a huge Cubs fan and had come. He's actually back in the Wisconsin, Illinois area. But we would go up when Sammy Sosa was playing, and we'd stay for the 3-game series or whatever, and the place would be empty. And the loudest noise was banging the seat next to you to create some crowd noise. But yeah, we would find this gentleman that probably sold tickets legally in the back of the stadium, and then go in and sit anywhere except in the front section where they had ushers or whatever, or you had your food served to you directly. But it was a heck of a time for 4,000 people that would show up to a game. So it's sad too, because that was a short trip for us. And it was, as you just mentioned, I don't remember going on a Dollar Tuesday. If they did, I don't think I ate six hot dogs, but
Yeah.
you know, we'll move on. All right. So we're for our listeners, we're trying to cut this back a little bit. You know, we know the attention span. I mean, even our attention span, the fact that we can go this long is a miracle. But we're going to roll into our GOAT debate. And as a professor started this 3 weeks ago, we're going to rotate each week. So it was my turn. And, originally, I thought we would choose the best men's and women's college basketball player of all time, and the professor quickly corrected me and said that's going to take too long. So since have all coached girls sports more than boys, we're going to go with the best college women's basketball player of all time. And do you guys want to start?
Hit it, Wizard.
Well, again, from me being able to watch players and through the years and not buying the hype just because somebody can score a lot of points, the player I chose as my all-time greatest is Cheryl Miller.
Oh,
Good pick.
And I don't know how many Naismiths she had, but I know she had at least two. Just an all-around great player, great teammate, and just all-around awesome person to watch play the sport and compete. So I chose Cheryl Miller.
that is go ahead, Max.
No, I was just going to say she was one of the ones that I had considered. So she's not to spill the beans, but you know, she averaged 20 points or more, in her college career, all 4 years. And then the last, 2 years, she averaged more than 25. But I think what was more amazing is that she also averaged 10 or more rebounds for the last 3 years. So she was a double machine, 3 years in college, and you don't always get that today with both sides of the ball.
Yeah, you can tell from that pick that the Wizard is a coach. Like, she reminds me of Maya Moore from UConn, you know, if you want to get a little bit newer. And I got to remember that some of the people that are listening don't even know that anything before 2000 existed. So, like, Maya Moore isn't going to be my pick, but she is the Cheryl Miller. So if you can date back to Maya Moore, or I don't have the name on the top of my head, the girl that plays for UConn now, come on, Max, help me out. The shooter, the rebounder.
That just graduated?
No, didn't she have one more year left? Oh no, maybe she did.
AZ Fudd?
No, not Fudd. The big kid. This is terrible. She's like I feel so terrible. This is why we're all getting old.
This is why you need to take notes, my friend.
I know. Well, I didn't even know I was going to mention her, but then Wizard almost stole my pick, and then I was thinking of Maya Moore. I'm going to go back to my philosophy of, all right, I'm putting my team together, and, you know, I was about to take, would I take her? I'm not going to. I think she's too small, but Caitlin Clark, who's also ruined pro basketball by shooting 35-footers. Clark deserves some words. I'm going to take, for my first pick in the draft, my second pick would be Sue Bird. My first pick would be Brittany Griner. So she's my best player of all time.
Wow, another good pick. Wouldn't expect anything less from you guys. You know, she definitely, transformed the big girl, post player, time. Even though like Lisa Lobo, before her, Candace Parker obviously was good back there in the day.
Rebecca Lobo.
Rebecca Lobo. Why did I say Lisa Lobo? Yeah, don't mind me.
Well, we're all struggling.
It's 6, not even 6:30 in the morning yet. I'm lucky I can speak somewhat coherent. Doesn't always happen. Actually, it doesn't happen at all except on Saturday mornings.
Wait. This is that moment when you're a senior. You know, we're old. Sarah Strong.
Sarah Strong, yes. Okay, number
All the way
20.
back to where I couldn't come up with the name of the Yukon. Maya Moore, Sarah Strong, Cheryl Miller. There you go.
Number 21, I believe, and the one that ripped her own jersey and
Yeah,
Coach
you can
Ori.
come up with her number, but you can't come up with her name for
I
me.
could see her. Dude, I'm a
Okay, go
numbers
ahead.
guy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but those moments, all of a sudden it flashes in your mind. You're like, there it is.
Yeah. She was the one that ripped her jersey at the end of the third quarter, and Coach Oriema thought that somebody else ripped it, and that's why they weren't getting calls.
And then Gino had the worst moment in his coaching career. We can go into that sometime.
We probably all had a worse moment. At least I can say I have. But all right. Anyways, on to my pick, and you guys, Cheryl Miller was definitely in my top two. Caitlin Clark transformed the game. Probably is the most underappreciated WNBA player right now, in the sense of what she has done for the WNBA, and maybe they'll get paid someday. But not just because this player was 4 for 4. And the only player, to my knowledge, I didn't do a ton of research on this. On the women's side, there's definitely men's college players that won 4 championships, aka the UCLA Bruins. But Brianna Stewart, went to UConn in the early 2010s, 4 consecutive years, 4 consecutive national championships, and she was the most outstanding player, MVP, whatever we want to call it, all 4, of those years. So, as a freshman, stepping in and being the best player on arguably the best women's college basketball program of all time. But to do it 4 years in a row, we talked a little bit, maybe a lot bit, about how difficult it is to win a championship. So Brianna Stewart was my pick. I think she impacted both ends of the floor. I think one of the stats that I wrote down is that she averaged over 3 blocks per game over the last 2 years of her college career. So we go Cheryl Miller, and I'm
Griner.
sorry. Go ahead.
Brittany
Brittany Griner. Yep, sorry, Brittany Griner. I should have wrote that down. And then Brianna Stewart. Any final comments on our GOAT debate?
Go ahead, Wizard, if you got one.
No, I just was. I was kind of a little surprised about Brittany Griner, but.
Well, this is what my argument's going to be, and I'm going to ask Mags, because if I'm putting a team together, Cheryl Miller's on it. I mean, Brianna Stewie's on it too. But if you're drafting number 1, remember, this is a debate. This isn't us just kissing each other's ass.
Yeah, right.
If you do that more than any one of us.
Yeah, are you taking Brianna first in a draft? Over we didn't even mention Asia Wilson. I mean, come on. Are you taking Bree first?
If we want to change the debate, so if we want to make it to all right, if I'm drafting a team today.
Wouldn't that be who you take first?
But does that make them the greatest player of all time because I would draft them first?
I would think so.
See, that's where I guess we differ, which is great for the podcast that we have differing opinions. Your pick a few weeks ago with Steph Curry, definitely transformed the point guard position. But looking at history and defining a point guard, we looked at it from a different lens, and I think that's okay. I mean, we didn't even talk about Sheryl Swoops.
No kidding.
Because that was all before our time, right?
Well,
my time, anyways.
Yeah,
right.
You kids.
Okay.
The reason I bring all that up is because at some point, if we continue this podcast for long enough, we're probably going to debate the greatest NFL player of all time. And I'm going to come back to this, just to this one. I'm going to have it recorded, and we're going to play it just before. That's all I'm saying.
That's fine. That's fine. you're right. That might be a sport that it's not somebody that's, that won the most championships, in my opinion, if you know what I mean.
Miami Dolphin and Pittsburgh Steeler fans here. Just go ahead. That's all right.
All right. Well, nothing else on the old GOAT debate?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you again, gentlemen, for being on time. I will work on my ladders. I'll maybe buy a GoPro, put it on, so you guys can see the struggle is real.
For you, it's going to be the GOAT Pro.
And the next thing you do, you see the floor.
Yeah.
And there goes the camera.
And until the EMTs roll them over.
Funny story about EMTs. Not as we conclude this, my wonderful wife had asked me to do a 5K. This was probably, I don't know, five years ago, up in Colebrook of all places. And I think it was for like the Kiwanis or whatever. And I went over and introduced myself to the ambulance crew before it started. Just told them if they got a call, it was probably for me to come rescue me off the course.
I'll see you guys in 2 miles.
Yeah. I did survive. I did make it. But definitely not the easiest thing I've ever done, and probably not the hardest either, but I'm not a runner, never pretend to be. So you're going to have to be patient.
We'll have to see if Wizard picks you as the greatest 5Ker of all time.
That would be a great debate that would last about 4 seconds. All right. Well, again, thank you, gentlemen, for being on time. And I use that term as loosely as possible. Looking forward to another episode next week. We'll discuss topics throughout the week as to what we're going to go. I know some of our listeners have really asked for some input on like how we would run a practice or how we do run a practice. So maybe that'll be, one of the topics next week. As we were talking about NIL, I couldn't help but think about the transfer portal, but that could be 17 calls with what the transfer portal is doing to college sports now. So anyways, signing off for this week's episode of Coach